Here's a quick summary of the 4 levels of happiness. Happiness is linked to a desire, and we have 4 different kinds of desire. And every time those desires are satisfied, they produce happiness, but very different kinds of happiness. The ancients recognized this, and so you'll see in Latin and Greek 4 different words for happiness. But unfortunately, in English, we have happiness, 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 and happiness, which causes a great deal of confusion. Let's see if we can just straighten it out very, very quickly. Think of happiness level 1 corresponding to our physical desires, something coming to us from the outside, stimulating our bodies, and that in turn producing a kind of euphoria. So, for example, good food or anything which might bring kinesthetic pleasure. The second kind of happiness comes from what we'll call ego desires, where we're trying to bring the entire world, as it were, under our influence or sometimes under our domination, or just plain trying to get comparative advantage. Who's achieving more or less, who's got more or less status, who's more or less intelligent. And when I wind up winning, I get ego satisfaction. When I wind up looking better than others, it really does give me a certain kind of happiness, which is quite different from good food. Happiness level 3 is the opposite in some ways from happiness level 2. Instead of trying to sort of bring the outer world under my influence or trying to get comparative advantage over other people, I'm trying to invest myself. I'm trying to bring all of my talents to bear on making the world a better place. We call that a contributive notion of happiness. I'm actually trying to make an optimal, positive difference in my life, trying to make the world optimally better off for my having lived. And when I see that I make my family happy, or I do something good for my family, do something positive for my friends, my community, my church, the kingdom of God, the society, my community center, whatever it might be, when I see that there's a great legacy of good that comes from my life, I'm happy. Happiness level 4 corresponds to yet another desire, and this is a desire linked to our own self-transcendence. We have something in us, which the ancients called the Transcendentals, which are desiring things that are almost perfect by their very nature, unconditional by their very nature. Unconditional truth, love, goodness, beauty, and being. I mean, if we summed it all up, it'd be God. And so we're naturally spiritual beings. We're naturally transcendent beings. We desire perfect and unconditional truth, love, goodness, beauty, and being. And in as much as we do, we desire God. And not only that, we have some sense of communion with that God. And not only that, we feel happy when we're at home, not only with the people around us, but at home in the totality of everything that is. We're not alienated or empty in that sense. And so prayer and communion with God and the transcendent makes us happy. But these different kinds of happiness feel different, and they certainly leave different legacies, and they certainly have different effects. And that's what we'll be discussing in the upcoming curriculum.